Abhadareshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Ubhagavati Samashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 2nd chapter, verses 31, 30, 31, and 32, I guess.
31.
Is that right?
Start 31.
Huh?
We start at 31.
Oh, start at 31. Okay. Vipanam Vishapanena Nigriya Bhujagapditam Upapadyapayad Gavas Tatoyam Prakriti Stitam Vipanam Vishapanena Nigriya Bhujagaditam Utapya Payayad Gyavas Upadhyaya Gavas Tatayam Prakriti Stitam Vipanam Vishapanena Nigrihya Vajagaditam Utapaya Payayad Gavas Tatayam Prakritim Stitam Vipanam perplexed in great difficulties. Vishapanena by drinking poison. Nigaya subduing. Vijoga Adipam, the chief of the reptiles. Utapya, after coming out. Apayayat, caused to drink. Gava, the cows. Tat, that. Toyam, water. Prakriti, natural. Stitam, situated. Translation: the inhabitants of Vrindavan were perplexed by great difficulties because a certain portion of the Jamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Kaliya. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. After coming out of the river, he caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state. Text 32. The Supreme Lord, Krishna, desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for worship of the cows, and also he wanted to give a lesson to Indra, the king of heaven. Thus he advised his father to perform worship of Go, or the pasturing land, and the cows, with the help of learned Brahmins. Responsively, the Supreme Lord, Krishna, desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for worship of the cows. And also, he wanted to give a lesson to Indra, the king of heaven. Thus he advised his father to perform worship of Go, or the pasturing land and the cows, with the help of learned Brahmins. Purport. Since he is the teacher of everyone, the Lord also taught his father, Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Maharaj was a well-to-do landholder and owner of many cows, and, as was the custom, he used to perform yearly worship of Indra, the king of heaven, with great opulence. The worship of demigods for the general populace is also advised in the Vedic literature, just so people can accept the superior power of the Lord. The demigods are servants of the Lord, deputed to look after the management of various activities of universal affairs. Therefore, it is advised in the Vedic scriptures that one should perform yagyas to appease the demigods. But one who is devoted to the Supreme Lord has no need to appease the demigods. Worship of the demigods by common people is an arrangement for acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, but it is not necessary. Such appeasement is generally recommended for material gains only. As we have already discussed in the second canto of the literature, one who admits the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to worship the secondary demigods, sometimes being worshipped and adored by less intelligent living beings. The demigods become puffed up with power and forget the supremacy of the Lord. This happened when Lord Krishna was present in the universe, and thus the Lord wanted to give a lesson to the King of Heaven, Indra. He therefore asked Maharaj Nanda to stop the sacrifice offered to Indra and to use the money properly by performing a ceremony worshipping the cows and the pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhana. By this act, Lord Krishna taught human society, as he has instructed in the Bhagavad Gita also, that one should worship the Supreme Lord by all acts and by all their results. This will bring about the desired success. The Vaishyas are specifically advised to give protection to the cows and their pasturing ground or agricultural land, instead of squandering their hard-earned money. That will satisfy the Lord. The perfection of one's occupational duty, whether in the sphere of duty to oneself, one's community, or one's nation, is judged by the degree to which the Lord is satisfied. Text 33. O sober Vidura, King Indra, his honor having been insulted, poured water incessantly on Vrindavan, and thus the inhabitants of Raja, the land of cows, were greatly distressed. But the compassionate Lord Krishna saved them from danger with his pastime umbrella, the Govardhana hill. So the purport to text 32 is kind of instructive, and it talks about the miracle performed by Krishna in lifting Govardhan hill. This is a significant verse in terms of where we live now, New Govardhan. Krishna nullified the worship of the demigod Indra. There's a passage in the Krishna book, which I'll read a little bit later, in which Krishna reasons with his father to stop the worship of the demigods. As it's stated in the purport, this is not necessary to worship the demigods, because when one worships Krishna, the demigods are automatically worshipped. Devarshi bhutatva ninim pitrinam nakinkaro nayam niri charajam nakinkaro nayam niri pritam. This is a famous verse in the 11th canto that says that if we worship the Supreme Lord, it is not necessary to fulfill all our obligations. From birth, we're obligated, according to the verse, to all great sages, to all the demigods, to animals, and to many human beings, and to the great sages. In order to appease the demigods, sometimes worship of the demigods is approved. There's a type of worship called Panchopasana, in which Surya, Shiva, Brahma, Lakshmi, and sometimes Lakshmi and Ganesh are worshipped. But this is a type of impersonal worship where Vishnu is relativized. He's considered to be equal to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Chandi. The Shiva is usually worshipped in Chandi is usually worshipped in the Panchopasana, and Ganesh in the Panchopasana worship. So this was difficult, and Krishna wanted to. It's described in the Krishna book that Krishna wanted to. He did this for several reasons. One was to cause the the person of Indra to become angry and to show that he was superior to him, and to teach him a lesson, and to make him become humble before the Supreme Lord. So this is the passage in the Krishna book called "Worshipping Govardhan Hill." While engaged with the Brahmins, who were too much involved in the performance of Vedic sacrifices, Krishna and Balaram also saw that the cowherd men were preparing a similar sacrifice in order to pacify Indra, the king of heaven, who is responsible for supplying water. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the devotee of Krishna has strong and firm faith in the understanding that if he is simply engaged in Krishna consciousness and Krishna's transcendental loving service, then he is freed from all other obligations. A pure devotee of Lord Krishna doesn't have to perform any of the ritualistic functions enjoined in the Vedas, nor is he required to worship any demigods. Being devotee of Lord Krishna, one is understood to have performed all kinds of Vedic rituals and all kinds of worship to the demigods. One does not develop devotional service for Krishna by performing the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or worshipping the demigods. But it should be understood that one who is engaged fully in the service of the Lord has already fulfilled all Vedic injunctions. So devotional service to the Supreme Lord is superior to worshipping demigods. Sometimes demigod worship is actually recommended in some sections of the Bhagavatam, but this is incomplete, and it's stated also in one of the Puranas that if one worships the demigods, one will attain the planets of the demigods, but will not attain Krishna Loka, the Supreme Lord. So Krishna asked his father, "My dear father, what is this arrangement going on for a great sacrifice?" It's interesting that Krishna expounded karma mimamsa, or atheistic philosophy, in order to teach this lesson to Indra. So Krishna is very flexible, and Prabhupada has taught us that when we confront or argue with a clever person, we have to be twice as clever. And he emphasized that word jugglery is not decisive. One can be very learned and very sort of versed in Vedic literature, but can be defeated by an expert logician, because that's their expertise is to debate successfully and to always have the last word. So one who is an Uttamadhikari understands all these nuances, and when Krishna was present in this universe, he defeated a great devotee who was a great champion. Like in Navadvip, there was a time when the scholars were like sports heroes today. They were like celebrities. They traveled with an entourage, and they had many elephants and horses with them. And when this one scholar came to Navadvip, he thought he would entrench his championship by defeating all the scholars of Navadvip. Navadvip was considered a great center of learning at the time. But he recited several verses, and Lord Chaitanya said to him that he wanted him to recite some verses in praise of Mother Ganges. And and he recited 100 verses, just like a great storm. It's as this is related in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But Lord Chaitanya memorized all of these shlokas and pointed out defects in one particular shloka. And the Keshava, Kashmiri, was completely awestruck that a young man who wasn't an expert in debate, who was only studying grammar, could have memorized and pointed out literary faults in one of 100 verses. So, anyway, to make a long story short, he had a dream about his worshipful goddess Saraswati that night, and she said that actually he was debating with the Supreme Personality of God, and he went back to Lord Chaitanya the next day and apologized to him and eventually became his follower. So this is what Krishna said to his father. My dear father, what is this arrangement going on for great sacrifice? What is the result of such a sacrifice, and for whom is it meant? How is it performed? Will you kindly let me know? I am very eager to know this procedure. So please explain to me the purpose of this sacrifice. Close quote. Upon this inquiry, his father, Nanda Maharaj, remained silent, thinking that this young boy would not be able to understand the intricacies of performing the yajna. Krishna, however, persisted. Open quote. My dear father, for those who are liberal and saintly, there is no secrecy. They do not think that anyone is a friend or an enemy or a neutral party, because they are always open to everyone. And even for those who are not so liberal, nothing should be kept secret. Nothing should be kept secret from the family members and friends, although secrecy may be maintained for persons who are inimical. Therefore, you cannot keep any secrets from me. All persons are engaged in devotional service. Therefore, you cannot keep any secrets from me. All persons are engaged in fruitive activities, not devotional service, but fruitive activities. Some know what these activities are, and they know the result. And some execute activities without knowing this purpose or the result. A person who acts with full knowledge gets the full result. One who acts without knowledge does not get the perfect result. Therefore, please let me know the purpose of this sacrifice you are going to perform. Is it according to Vedic injunctions, or is it simply a popular ceremony? Kindly let me know in detail about the sacrifice. Close quote. On hearing this inquiry from Krishna, Maharaj Nanda replied, open quote, my dear boy, this ceremonial performance is more or less traditional. Because rainfall is due to the mercy of King Indra, and the clouds are his representatives, and because water is so important for our living, we must show some gratitude to the controller of this rainfall, Maharaj Nanda. Maharaj Nanda, we are arranging therefore to pacify King Indra, Maharaj, to the controller of this rainfall, who is Maharaj Indra. We are planning therefore to pacify King Indra, because he has very kindly sent us clouds to pour down a sufficient quantity of rain for successful agricultural activities. Water is very important. Without rainfall we cannot farm or produce grain, and without grain we cannot live. Therefore, rain is necessary for successful religious ceremonies, economic development, and ultimately liberation. So we should not give up this traditional ceremonial function. If one gives it up, being influenced by lust, greed, or fear, then one does not look very good. Then it does not look very good for him. Close quote. After hearing this, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the presence of his father and all the elder cowherd men of Vrindavan, spoke in such a way as to make the heavenly king Indra very angry. He suggested that they forego the sacrifice. His reasons for discouraging the sacrifice performed to please Indra were twofold. First, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no need to worship the demigods for any material advancement. All results derived from worshiping the demigods are simply temporary. And only those who are less intelligent are interested in temporary results. Second, whatever temporary result one derives from worshiping the demigods is actually granted by the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Mayaiva vihitan intan. Whatever benefit is supposed to be derived from demigods is actually bestowed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot bestow any benefit upon others. But sometimes the demigods become puffed up by the influence of material nature, thinking themselves all in all. They forget the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavatam it is clearly stated that in this instance, Krishna wanted to make King Indra angry. Krishna's advent was especially meant for the annihilation of the demons and protection of the devotees. King Indra was certainly a devotee, not a demon, but because he was puffed up, Krishna wanted to teach him a lesson. He first made Indra angry by stopping the Indra Puja, which has been arranged by the cowherd men in Vrindavan. With this purpose in mind, Krishna began to talk as if he were an atheist, supporting the philosophy of karma mimamsa. Advocates of this philosophy do not accept the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. They put forward the argument that if anyone works nicely, the result is sure to come. The opinion is that even if there is a God who gives man the result of his fruitive activities, there is no need to worship him, because unless man works, he cannot bestow any good result. They say that instead of worshiping a demigod or God, people should give attention to their own desires, and thus the good result will surely come. Lord Krishna began to speak to his father according to these principles. These principles of the karma mimamsa philosophy, open quote, "My dear father," he said, "my dear father," close quote, he said, open quote, "I don't think that you need to worship any demigod for the successful performance of your agricultural activities. Every living being is born according to his past karma and leaves this life simply taking the results of his present karma. Everyone is born in different types of species of life according to his past activities, and he gets his next birth according to the activities of this life. Different grades of material happiness and distress, comforts and disadvantages of this life are different results of different kinds of activities from either the past or the present life." Close quote. Maharajananda and other elder members argue that without satisfying the dominating God, one cannot derive any good result simply by material activities. This is actually the fact. For example, it is sometimes found that in spite of first-class medical help and treatment by a first-class physician, the diseased person dies. It is concluded, therefore, that first-class medical treatment or the attempts of the first-class physician are not in themselves the cause for curing a patient. There must be the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, a father's and mother's taking care of their children is not the cause of the children's comfort. Sometimes it is found that in spite of all care by the parents, the children go bad and succumb to death. Therefore, material causes are not sufficient for results. There must be the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nanda Maharaj therefore advocated that in order to get good results for agricultural activities, they must satisfy Indra, the superintending deity of the rain supply. Lord Krishna nullified this argument, saying that the demigods can give results only to persons who have executed their prescribed duties. The demigods cannot give good results to the person who has not executed the prescribed duties. Therefore, demigods are dependent upon the execution of duties and are not absolute in awarding good results to anyone. So why should one care about them? Open quote, "My dear father," close quote, Lord Krishna said, open quote, "there is no need to worship the demigod Indra. Everyone has to achieve the result of his own work. We can actually see that one becomes busy according to the natural tendency of his work. And according to that natural tendency, all living entities, whether humans or demigods, human beings or demigods, achieve their respective results. All living entities achieve higher and lower bodies and create enemies, friends, or neutral parties only because of their different kinds of work. One should be careful to discharge duties according to his natural instinct and not divert attention to the worship of various demigods. The demigods will be satisfied by proper execution of all duties, so there is no need to worship them. Let us rather perform our prescribed duties very nicely. Actually, one cannot be happy without executing his proper prescribed duty. One who does not, therefore, properly discharge his prescribed duties is compared to an unchaste wife. The proper prescribed duty of the Brahmins is the study of the Vedas. The proper duty of the royal order, the Kshatriyas, is engagement in protecting the citizens of the The proper duty of the Vaishyas community is agriculture, trade, and protection of the cows. And the proper duty of the Shudras is service to the higher castes, namely the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. We belong to the Vaishya community, and our proper duty is to farm and to trade, and the agricultural produce, to trade with agricultural produce, to protect cows, or to take to banking. Close quote. Krishna himself, with the Vaishya community, because Nanda Maharaj was protecting many cows, Krishna identified himself with the Vaishya community. Because Nanda Maharaj was protecting many cows, and Krishna was taking care of them, he enumerated 4 kinds of business activities for the Vaishya community, namely agriculture, trade, protection of cows, and banking. Although the Vaishyas can take to any of these occupations, the men of Vrindavan were engaged primarily in the protection of cows. Krishna further explained to his father, open quote, this cosmic manifestation is going on under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. These 3 modes are the causes of creation, maintenance, and destruction. The cloud is caused by the action of the mode of passion. Therefore, it is the mode of passion which causes the rainfall. And after the rainfall, the living entities derive the result. Success in agricultural work. What then has Indra to do with this affair? Even if you do not place Indra, what can he do? Even if you do not please Indra, what can he do? We do not derive any specific benefit from Indra. Even if he is there, he points out, he pours water on the occasional ocean, on the ocean also, where there is no need of water. So he is pouring water on the ocean or on the land, but it does not depend on our worshiping him. So as far as we are concerned, we do not need to go to another city or village or foreign country. There are palatial buildings in the cities, but we are satisfied living in the forest of Vrindavan. Our specific relationship is with Govardhan Hill and Vrindavan forest and nothing more. I therefore request you, my dear Father, to begin a sacrifice which will satisfy the local Brahmins and Govardhan Hill, and let us have nothing to do with Indra. Prabhupada once told us in one of his lectures that the sun is continuously evaporating water from the ocean, and yet in most of the ocean we don't see clouds. So he says that the water that's evaporated is actually taken and stolen and kept in the possession of the sun god. And when the sun god wants to release the water, then it can form rain. So I don't think we're going to have time to finish this whole passage. But anyway, Krishna is very widely worshipped as the lifter of Govardhan Hill, and because Indra was very unhappy with him, he poured incessant rain, and the rain is described in the Bhagavatam as coming down in great pillars. It was not an ordinary rainstorm, and for 7 days, Krishna, as we have on the altar, lifted this hill with his little finger. So this is a part of Krishna's supreme opulence, and it's known that an ordinary person has difficulty even lifting a weight that's more than 100 kilos. What to speak of a big mountain or a big hill? So that's the name of Krishna given as Giridhari, or the lifter of Govardhan Hill. He's very famous in that part of the world, as the lifter of Govardhan Hill. People still remember this incident even though it took place thousands of years ago. So are there any comments on any of this, or things that should be said? Yes?
I thought it was interesting, Maharaj.
Sorry?
I thought it was interesting that Maharaj Nanda and the other cameramen were described as being engaged in cow protection rather than producing milk or farming or whatever. The description was cow protection. That sort of doesn't exist in the age we live.
Yeah, there are some people that want to ban all slaughterhouses, and in the United States there's probably thousands of them, in order to create some semblance of sanity. But it's not happening, even though there are people, animal rightists, who object to this. Still they're going on and they're eating meat. So I think we'll end there. Yes?
I was wondering if you could elaborate. I'm not too sure if I'm getting the right words, but you spoke something about doing something for a higher cause instead of doing your duty.
Something for a higher cause instead of doing your duty?
Yeah, I may not have the right words correct, but you read it in the protocol.
Well, what is a higher cause? Actually, if one does one's duty as a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra, and does it perfectly for Krishna, then it's considered valuable. Svanishtitasya dharmasya samstutam. But if it's done only for personal sense gratification, it's considered to be useless labor. And the higher purpose, of course, is to satisfy Krishna. That is what Krishna is indirectly saying here. That you don't have to pacify demigods if you devote yourself to Krishna and you do everything for him with the love of Krishna, then that will automatically satisfy all of Krishna's servants. So that's the higher purpose.
If you don't mind me just asking another question, Maharaj. So what pleases more Krishna? Is it looking after your family or serving ISKCON?
Well, everything is very, as far as I'm concerned, very dependent upon time, place, and circumstance. And as I was saying the other day, that the neglect of ordinary things is not a good thing. It's mentioned in Nectar of Devotion that one should, Rupa Goswami has said that we shouldn't be negligent in ordinary affairs. But on the other hand, Prabhupada has said that if a partner, a male or female partner, is diverting and not being Krishna conscious, then that person can be abandoned for a higher purpose. It's not the usual case, but it does happen. Any other questions? Okay, I think we'll stop there.